Howdy folks, Brian Rideout here. This is a shamelessly self-promotional bonus episode of Swords Against Madness, where I'm going to be playing a little bit of Undeadwood Weird West RPG, the latest role-playing game I've released under my imprint Death Trap Games, and by far the one I'm most proud of in all my years of developing games. I'll probably also share it on Dead Man's Dice, which was a developer's podcast that I created mostly for my own playtesters back during the development of the game in 2023 and 2024. I will be recording a lot more of it extemporaneously so that you guys can get a sense of how the game plays while I'm taking some time to walk around and explore Wonkatonkwa County, the strange otherworld I created for my Weird West setting. As always, I intend to keep it fun and simple, but I also definitely want to share this creation with you. So sit back and get comfortable. Trade in the chainmail bikini for a calico dress, or that leather kirtle for a pair of chaps. And let's get weird Texas style in this first episode of Bullets Against Madness. The son of Wonkatonkwa County knows no pity, no mercy. There's no joy or smile in that sun. There's just cruel, pitiless heat. It looks just like our sun, but any man who looks up at it knows it's different. The thing that worries most of them is a question. Is it a different sun? Am I that far away from home? Or is it just something about the big sky over America that makes it seem warmer and kinder than here? The sun of Earth, the sun of America, grows crops. Even in the desert, it seems to nurture life, albeit life far hardier than humans. But here, it's a hot interrogation land, and anyone who's in line of sight to the river Ojo that runs from the east to the west, cutting a furrow between Wonkatonkwa County and Anasazi land, can feel the eyes of a warden, an interrogator, a torturer on them. It's why in this part of the county, Curse Springs, no house has a south-facing door or a south-facing window, where people hang their laundry in furrows and gullies, damn be the wind. And if it weren't for the cruelty of the sun, some men would stay forever in shadows of hills to their south. There's nowhere to hide under the Wonkatonkwa sun. That day in 1869, the sun was glaring its cruel eye down on two men climbing a perilous bluff just to the south of Lonesome Bride Ridge. And at the stagecoach, they were planning on bushwhacking. And none could say if that sun knew what was coming or not. But if they did, they'd say it was staring like a buzzard. I'm going to start by rolling up a random protagonist for our adventure. Well, I designed the game for players to create characters that they wanted to play. I realized that sometimes you just gotta be able to roll up a character. For example, when you are just tossing yourself into a solo game with no plan. And when you're playing a solo role-playing game, you want the chaos, you want the randomness. So, I'm glad I have these tables. That's 44 on the pools array. That gives me a character with a snake oil salesman archetype. That is to say that they have only a 1 in their vigor pool, 3 in wits, 5 in charm, 4 in luck, and 2 in tamanu. What does that all mean? Well, let's explain it when it comes up. Next, I need 3 traits that define my character's abilities. I'm going to roll for these too, but I reserve the right to re-roll if I don't seem to be getting a very consistent character. So I'm going to roll 3 times on a D666 table to find what kind of talents and abilities this character has picked up over the course of his life. 245 is Grasswalker. This fellow has spent some time on big open plains and knows how to navigate them. 353 is Herbalist. He knows how to make cures and is one step towards becoming an alchemist if I was playing this for a long time instead of a one-shot. And then finally, 523 is Seductive. Interesting. Now, I didn't intend Undeadwood for kids. There's lots of images of substance abuse and at least implied sex, although I don't provide any mechanics for it. After all, I drew almost all of my inspiration from old pulp magazines from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. But the next thing I've got to do is pick the fellow's touchstone. This is a vice or an obsession that manages to keep my character sane. And in his case, I get riding. This guy's a speed demon. He likes being in buggies, gigs, or on horseback and going fast in order to get his energy out. Lastly, I have to determine what he's carrying around in his war bag. There are 3 methods I have listed to do this, and I'm going to take the one that is both most random and offers a chance at some unusual object, cursed item, or lucky charm that he's carrying around. First up, for self-defense, we have a repeating rifle and a hatchet. For provisions, he's carrying a water skin, a side of bacon, and a bag of nuts. For travel, a compass, a map, sextant, diary, and pen. His professional items, a pickaxe, a shovel, a pan, and 3 sticks of TNT. His personal vice item, a clay cup, some dice, and a deck of cards. And finally, a personal item. That's a silver and ivory cameo pendant. Now, when I add the 6d6 I rolled to get all of those items, I get a total of 25, which gives me a bonus item on the random treasure table. In this case, a cursed revolver that whispers at you when you hold it. Of course, I also have a problem now. I'm already carrying way too much. The way I have encumbrance working is that you have 5 ready slots and 5 war bag slots. Big tools and heavy objects all take up 1 slot. A handful of light objects of similar purpose or size can be squashed 3 or 4 to a slot. The Soul Wrangler should use his judgment there. But no matter how I slice it with all that heavy mining equipment, a hatchet, a repeater, and some fairly hefty provisions, I'm already encumbered. Now, I have 6 trait slots, and these determine what abilities my character has. Some traits are good, and some traits are bad. The latter are called injuries. Encumbrance is an injury. So long as it's on your character sheet, you're at -2 to any roll to get out of the way of danger. And you're 1 step closer to dead until you get rid of it. Hopefully I can ditch or sell some things, or maybe get an animal to help me carry all the load. But it will have to happen in-game. And because I opted to roll on the random treasure table, I don't have any cash to start. Now I guess all I need is a name. Given that the guy likes to be fast, and given that he's a healer, I think I'll go with Carson Swift. And given what I know about him, I'm going to say he comes from Kansas. Well, Carson, let's see what kind of trouble you can get up to. Bo, why the hell am I carrying all this stuff again? Carson Swift wiped the salt from his forehead. His back was aching, and the sun was brutal. The backpack on his back nearly weighed 80 pounds, and they'd been on foot since the mission. Carson, quit your bitching. Y'all are dead and damned, and I don't think Satan cares whether you're uncomfortable or not. Bo was using a trail knife, cut a slice off of a large sausage he carried in his pocket. He laid the slab of dried meat across his knees, and then reached into a pocket and pulled out a small pouch. Carson watched with horrified fascination as Bo tore the packet open and began to liberally sprinkle hot chili peppers over the sausage. You know, a fella could start to take real offense to being told he's damned all the time. Oh, I know this place is crazy, but it ain't hell. Having piled the painfully excessive spices onto the slab of sausage, Bo lifted it up to his crooked teeth and bit off a hunk, chewing it appreciatively, his eyes watering, his cheeks flushing. Oh yeah, smart guy? What clues do you have that this ain't hell? 'Cause I seen plenty that tells me it is. Well, for one thing, there's Rosa up at Hacienda Quintamos. Boy, the things we did together, that ain't happening in hell. And while I confess that it is awfully hellish that I gotta be hauling all your stuff so that I can help you do a job before you can pay me back the $48 you owe me, that does seem like the kind of joke that the devil himself might play on a fella. But if I were being punished, you would think that the punishment would fit the crime. And let me tell you, my sins all involve people far prettier. Carson, you got a serious problem with your ego. Imagine thinking the devil's gonna care enough to make sure your punishments are personal. You're a damned man who still can't give up his pride. Watching Bo eat a tablespoon of capsaicin on top of an old salami felt like watching some kind of circus freak show act. And he thanked God that Wonkatonkwa County, whether it was hell or not, at least had some entertainment. Now tell me, Bo, do you eat that stuff as penance? Carson watched with amusement as Bo sped up his chewing, holding up a finger, signaling to Carson to wait for the witty comeback he'd just come up with. But then a funny look came over his face, and he spat the meat out onto a nearby rock, the snide mirth on his face disappearing. Shut up and get down. They're coming. So to get started, I'm going to roll up a random adventure for our new friend, Carson. And I'm proud to say I have a fairly sizable set of adventure generation tables in Undeadwood. So let's start by finding out where we're going. I've got a 7, which is a point along a stagecoach route to... We roll random settlement. 5, 9. We're on a random point along the stagecoach route to Daewoo. Okay. Now that tells me in what region are we currently in? 2, Haunted Springs. So we're coming up from the south of the county in the grassy plains of Haunted Springs on our way to Daewoo, the most diverse and tolerant of all the settlements in Wonkatonkwa County. For motivations, I have 3 tables for heroic, selfish, and villainous reasons. I'm going to roll on the selfish tables for this run. So given that we're being selfish, why are we here? We're acting as bodyguard. Okay, so who needs help? A weary bounty hunter is in too deep and needs some help. Okay, who's the mark? A selfish landowner. And what's the catch? You're going to have to travel a lot over the course of the mission. Roll for 1d3 additional places we'll need to go to follow up all the leads. I'm going to need to go 3 more places. Okay, what's my payoff? Alright, a random treasure from the random treasure table. That's cool. So that's 6, 13, 16, 22. $48. Not much of a bounty, but obviously I owe this guy a favor. Last question. What's the opposition? What has our selfish landowner got protecting him? Members of one of the local factions working at cross purposes. Okay, I'll roll a random settlement and pick one of the factions I can find there. And I've got the Redhead Mine. Okay, that is bandit country there. So this guy is being hunted at the same time by one of the bands. There are in fact 2 gangs up there. the Whartons and the Wahpettons. The Wharton gang, well, they're just thieves. Well-financed thieves, but thieves. The Wahpetton gang, they're way more sinister. A pack of Cthulhu cultists after a fashion. Well, if I want to show off the weirdness of my game, I know which one is going to be trouble. Let's see how this plays out. Bo crouched down behind one of the painted hoodoos on top of the rise, peering through a hole the wind had worn through it over hundreds of years, pulling a telescope out to get a better view. Oh hell, they got company. And from what I'm seeing, it ain't friendly company. Unless they're in some kind of a race. Carson would like watching a race too damn much for it to be true, so it had to be some kind of unfriendly company to their mark. Hand it over, let me have a look-see, Bo. Carson started by finding the stagecoach roaring down the trail from Daewoo to the mission. From there he scanned up and found the pursuers. The first thing he noticed was the horses. Beautiful Wonkatonkwa Pales. Some of the strongest, meanest horses a man could ever run into. They weren't no quarter horse for racing, but they made for a damn good ride. Especially the handful that old Sam Daigle was selling crossbred with Mustangs. Man, what I wouldn't give for a horse like that. Never mind the horses, bird brain. You got any colors on them followers? Yep. Yeah, I can see it all right. They're wearing sashes. Aw, hell. Bo, they're wearing chartreuse sashes. What the hell have you got me into?
Wahpettons? All the way down here? Are you sure about that?
Sure as a hodag is mean. We got a change of plans, Bo? Bo sat thinking for a moment, wiping the last of the tears from his capsaicin lunch out of his eyes. Same as before, but with a twist. You're gonna run that stagecoach off into the grass like we agreed. And I'm gonna start thinning out them Wahpettons. Hopefully I can set 'em running. After that, you help me track down that coach. And then we drag whoever's in the coach on up to Daewoo, collect a bounty, and you can pay me my $45?
Nope.
We get the feller in the stagecoach to tell us where the fella I'm looking for is. Then we find that fella, and we get him to tell us where he hid the thing he took. Then we find that. I bring that back to its rightful owners. Then I get the bounty. And then you get your $48. And like we agreed, you get any blood on your pretty clothes, or somebody does something to that sweet little face of yours, then we'll talk about you getting a share. Now quit plaiting your hair and admiring them horses, and get yourself ready, just in case we have a scrap. Carson laid down and got ready, taking aim at the big blue rock he'd placed in the road, looking for the little mound of dirt right next to it. He wasn't a great shot, but today he had all the time in the world. Somewhere in the back of his head, however, he could hear it. The gun. Hungry. It wanted to be the one to pull the trigger. And it didn't want him to shoot no dynamite. Behind him, he could hear Bo pulling back on the string of his hunting bow. The bounty hunter drew the arrow back and aimed high, taking aim at the rearmost pursuer, humming a tuneless incantation to himself as he did so. And then he let the arrow fly. NPCs in Undeadwood are handled in a number of different ways depending on what you need from them. Some can be as simple as 2 or 3 statistics. Others can be full-blown player characters. Unlike Carson, who I just rolled up, Bo regards a character I built custom. He has Vigor 4, Wits 5, Charm 2, Luck 3, and Taminu 1. And he has the traits Cat's Paw, which makes him sneaky, Rope Artist, which makes him good at tying people up and lassoing, and Sharpshooter, which allows him to ignore a number of penalties during ranged attacks, and gives him a bonus to attack and damage, with rifles, shotguns, and bows. As they've gone to pains to put themselves in an ambush site, Carson and Bo are going to start with surprise on their enemies. But as Carson is waiting for a specific event to happen, he's not going to go this round. I'm just going to roll for Bo and to see if he can hit the bandit. Rolls in this game are handled by judging a difficulty. Hitting someone with a bow and arrow from surprise would be an easy task. But it's not just at any range, it's at a pretty extreme range. So I'm going to move it from easy to regular to hard. And then he's trying to hit a moving target. That makes the roll damned hard. Then I can knock it down one because he's using a telescope to help him adjust for range, giving me a hard roll. That means I've got to roll 2 dice and beat a 9. Bo's sharpshooter trait adds 1 to long-range attacks with bows and rifles. If I miss, I can choose to sacrifice a point of wits to roll one of the 2 dice over. Let's see how it goes. I got a 10, plus 1 from Bo's sharpshooter. He would have made it even if I'd kept it to a damned hard roll. A typical bandit can take 2 wounds. A bow and arrow does 2 by default, and Bo's sharpshooter perk adds 1 to the damage, making it more than enough to kill a bandit at long range. I'm not going to even worry about the damage done from falling off their horse. Bo let the arrow fly, then immediately dropped down low. The space between the release and the arrow hitting its target seemed painfully long, and he had to resist the urge to whoop when the arrow sunk into the chest of the rearmost bandit, caused them to twist, fall over, and be dragged by one stirrup.
That's one released from his torment.
So have we given up our element of surprise? A bow and arrow may not be the most powerful weapon in this game. It may be slow to shoot, compared to a revolver or repeating rifle, but it is quiet. There's no sound of a gunshot to give away that the Wahpettons are under attack. The only way they'll know that Bo just shot at them is if one of them catches his movement out of the corner of his eye, or if they turn around and see that their companion has fallen off his horse. All we need is a lucky break on Bo's behalf. So, as the Soul Wrangler, I'm going to judge that, given the bandits' focus, their excitement, and the element of surprise, that I will require an easy luck test from Bo for the bandits to fail to turn around and notice their compatriot going down. That means beating a 5. And I've got a 5. That was a close one. But the bandits keep on riding as if nothing happened. Encounters in Undeadwood should have a timer, a countdown till something goes wrong, or something must happen. I usually recommend 1d3 plus 1 rounds before some event occurs. So I'm going to roll to see how long it is before Carson has to pull the trigger and divert the stagecoach. And I've got... that's a 2 plus 1 for 3 rounds. I'll say for the sake of argument that the bandits remain at extreme long range for 1 more round. Then they get a little closer. And as long as Bo's luck holds out, they might be able to pick off a couple more in that time. So let's take another shot. Not much has changed, so we're going to call this another hard attack roll. 8 this time. That's a miss. Now, Beauregard Hunkle, he has himself a wits of 5. That's the pool that has everything to do with speed and perception. I can sacrifice a point of it and re-roll one of these dice, which are a 6 and a 2. But in doing so, I'm going to reduce his initiative score. And he may need his wits later, so it's a risky move. But I'm going to make the roll, so the 2 becomes a 2 again. That second arrow missed, and that's going to make the luck check to avoid being noticed a little harder. Let's say that it becomes a regular rather than an easy roll, as there's now a bandit who's been shot at and missed. Rolling Bo's luck, I get an 8. That's just above the 7 I needed. He can keep shooting one more time. Smirking, Bo drew another arrow, knocked it, drew it back, then picked himself up, aimed carefully, and let another one fly. This one sailed wide of its target, disappearing into the dust trail behind them. He let out a mild curse as he ducked back behind the hoodoo, hoping the bandit hadn't seen the arrow coming. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. No change in their demeanor or their behavior. He realized that he had just gotten very lucky. We've got one more shot. This time the bandits are just in far range. And they're still surprised. So Bo now has a regular attack roll to make to hit them. 2d6 plus 1 from his sharpshooter. He's got to beat a 7. And he rolls a 4. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. Now I have to decide. Do I sacrifice another point of wits in order to try and hit? I'm going to need to roll at least a 4 if I re-roll. That gives me 50-50 odds. You know what? I'm going to take it. Whew! A 6! Straining with concentration, Bo drew back a third arrow. His pink tongue could be seen sticking out of his tobacco-stained lips. He let out a low, wet breath, then pulled himself up and took another shot. The arrow hit the bandit in the chest. He lurched backwards, then slid sideways off of his saddle, crumpling to the ground, disappearing in the dust, his horse pulling away from the rest of them. But the bandits were focused on the stagecoach. Now, Carson, pull the trigger! Carson exhaled and squeezed the trigger of his Winchester, biting his lip so hard he could taste blood. Okay, Carson has planted a stick of dynamite on the trail. The idea is to make it explode to startle the horses and force them to veer off the road. After all, they want the man in the stagecoach. They don't want to hurt the driver. He's shooting a rifle from far away. He doesn't have a scope. The gun isn't particularly special, nor do any of his traits improve his shot. So normally I would judge this shot to be a hard roll. At least the dynamite isn't moving. But because he's had lots of time to aim, I'll bring it down to a regular shot. Carson has to beat a 7 on 2d6. And I rolled a 5. In this case, a 4 and a 1. There's a pretty good chance if I spend a point of Carson's wits, I'll be able to fix this shot. And it's a pretty mission-critical one, so I'm going to have to do it. But Carson with 3 wits, losing that is going to make him a lot slower. So slow, in fact, that it's going to be a real liability in a fight. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Re-rolling the 1. And I get a 4. Whew, that was feeling a little tense. There was a low thud of dynamite exploding, a plume of smoke and gravel. The horses in front of the stagecoach screamed and began to twist and turn. The stagecoach driver's scream of terror could be heard all the way up on top of the bluff as he pulled the reins tight. Okay, I've got a driver and I have to figure out whether he's going to veer off course or whether he can keep control of the horses. I'm not going to bother giving the driver any serious statistics. He's a minor NPC. Instead, let's make this a luck roll. We've already got bandits chasing the man, and dynamite has just gone up in front. These horses are not in a good state. So I'm going to make this an easy luck roll for Carson to get this guy off the beaten trail and into the tall grass. I have to meet or beat a 5. And I get a 3. At least Carson's luck pool is better than his wits pool. But I'm already spending a ton of points. This is going to be real difficult if the stagecoach gets away. Time to re-roll the 1. I get a 5. The horses in front of the stagecoach screamed and twisted and turned, fighting one another for a second before they all settled for the comfort of tall grass. Instincts that came from long before they were broken kicking in. The stagecoach bounced and twisted as it hit ruts and bumps that the driver simply couldn't avoid. Carson dropped himself flat to the ground and rolled over, holding his breath to see what the bandits would do in response. Okay. The Wahpettons aren't going to like somebody else trying to horn in on their business. And having made their presence known in such a dramatic fashion, there's a pretty good chance that the Wahpettons are going to figure out where they're hiding. I'm going to make it a damned hard luck roll for Carson to avoid being spotted. I have to meet or beat an 11. 8. Now, one of those dice is a 6. I could spend another luck point, but I'm already draining my pools really rapidly. I'm going to have to let this one go. The Wahpettons are going to know where the interlopers are. And as the stagecoach is not going to get very far going across tall grass near a place as rough as Lonesome Bride Ridge, well, I think they'd much rather deal with the new threat. And of course, this is the point where they're going to be looking around and realizing 2 of their number are missing. I don't think I exactly established how many bandits there are. So let's fix that by rolling 1d6 plus 2. It just seems right for a bandit strike team. Oh hell, that means there are 6 of them. With that many, I get the feeling that there's a good chance that one of the bandits' elites are hanging around with the group, which makes this a great time to bring in the Mythic Game Master emulator. If you're a regular listener to my podcast, you'll have heard a lot about the Mythic Game Master emulator. But if this special episode is what attracted you here, first, welcome, and second, I'll give you a quick rundown. Mythic Game Master Emulator uses 2d10, as well as a range of tools like a list of your various NPCs and a list of various threads in your plot to keep track of what's going on. It also uses a number called a chaos factor, ranging for 1 for your characters have everything completely under control, to 10 for everything has spiraled completely out of control. At the end of every scene, you have to decide, were the players in control by the end, or have things gone way off plan? Whenever you have a question for the Oracle, like, are there special villains mixed in with these bandits? You determine a likelihood. In this case, I'll say very likely, and then use your chaos factor to find a percentile chance based on that difficulty. In this case, we have a chaos factor of 5 because it's the first scene of the game, and I've said that it's very likely. That means there's an 85% chance that one of these bandits is more than just a gunslinger. Let's roll and pray. Okay, I got a 41. I'm gonna make one of these bandits a witch, with a couple of random spells. And I'm gonna make one of them a little tougher, using the stats for a bandit boss from my core book. So I'm gonna roll a d66 twice to determine what spells I'm up against. Okay, I've got a 15 and a 21. So our witch can cast the Hex spell, which is bad news, and the Phantom Steed spell, which is a very cool one, but probably won't give me any trouble during this encounter. But now I'm about to face the music for having spent all those pool points. There was only a short pause. A moment for the Wahpettons to take it all in. Their dead compatriots. The explosion. The rustle of movement on the ridge. They talked low and quiet, laying plans on how to punish the interlopers before going back after their prize. Ah, hell. How many of them are there, Bo?
There was 8. Now there's 6.
8? Why the hell did you start shooting if there were 8?
I didn't have time to count them. All I knew is our mark was under attack. I need him, and there was more than 4 and less than 10.
God in heaven, how did you make it this long as a bounty hunter?
Keen eyes and pure meanness. Now quit jawing and get ready to defend yourself.
Initiative in Undeadwood works very simply. Add your current vigor to your current wits. That's your initiative score. Ties go to the guy with the higher wits pool. Bad guys always go between 4 and 5. Environmental effects, or things like explosions, happen on 1. This means right now that Bo has an initiative of 7, having spent only a couple of points of wits. But Carson's initiative, which is 4 at the best of times, has dropped well down to just 2, which means that he's going to go after the bad guys. Bo set his bow and arrow against the hoodoo, and quickly unslung the buffalo rifle he kept on his back. He rolled to the edge of the rise, took aim, and fired. Because Bo keeps his rifle in his war bag slots, he can switch between his bow and his rifle very quickly. They're at just long range now, and he has the high ground. So this is going to be a regular wits test, with a +1 for sharpshooter. A 3 and a 1. I can't afford to miss this shot. I'm going to have to spend another one of Bo's wits, but that leaves him with a perilously depleted pool. Let's go. Whew, that brings it up to a 7. He's not picking his targets, I'm just going to roll randomly. On a 1, I hit the witch. On a 2, the bandit boss. Any other number and I hit one of the random bandits. Bo didn't aim too hard. He didn't need to. He just had to hit a fella center mass. The 50 caliber buffalo rifle roared, punching a hole through a man just above the hip. The Wahpettons didn't need any other invitation. A pair of them ducked behind rocks and cracked off a couple of shots with their pistols. Bo's aware the attack is coming, so defense is rolled with wits. He's got high ground and cover. So what would normally be a hard wits roll becomes an easy wits roll. But my pool is almost depleted, so here's hoping I roll well. 7. And snake eyes. Oh no, that's bad medicine. When you roll bad medicine, things go real wrong and you cannot re-roll. Bandits have a damage rating of 2. If they're hitting another NPC, they do 2 wounds. If they're hitting a lost soul, things get ugly. We roll 1d3 for each wound they would have dealt to an NPC, and fill that many trait slots with the wounded trait, each one inflicting a -1 penalty on all rolls. If I roll high enough, Bo is dead instantly. Okay, that's 2 wounds. I lucked out. But because he rolled bad medicine, I'm also rolling on the critical injury table. This could be even uglier. 7. I'm also adding a permanent injury trait to Bo called Punctured Gut. As long as that's there, and it's going to require magic or surgery to get rid of it, he has a -2 on any roll to resist starvation, thirst, poison, or disease. By the time Bo had finished rolling back, he had left a trail of blood. There was a gushing wound on his abdomen, and he clenched it, letting out a soft curse. There was a snapping sound as bullets flew through the air around them. There was a crack of gunfire, a thundering of hooves, and the whistling of bullets flying by as the remaining 3 Wahpettons circled around on horseback, firing pistols to force the bounty hunters to keep their heads down as they looked for a way up to them. Shaking, Carson threw down his satchel, throwing the shovel that was attached to it to one side, and pulled out his lighter and his dynamite. Bo, don't you die on me. I can't fight these crazy bastards alone. Now to the top of round 2. He has 2 wounded traits, and 1 punctured gut trait. On top of which, at the beginning of this round, I'm going to add a bleeding trait. With a 4th injury trait being added to his list, I'm going to have to temporarily disable one of Bo's permanent traits, and put this one on top of it. I'm going to sacrifice Rope Artist first. I don't think Bo's going to be doing any roping while he's bleeding out. He's going to spend the round attempting to stop the bleeding. Normally that would be a regular wits test, but he's doing it to himself, so I'm going to make it hard. He's got a meet or beat a 9. That's a 6, -2 for the wounds, -1 for the bleeding out. That's nowhere near enough. With bullets skipping across the rocks, inches from Bo's head, he shakily reached into his war bag and pulled out some bandages. He fumbled with them, but no matter how hard he pressed, more blood just kept coming, coating his hands and spreading through his shirt.
At least I'm gonna die the way my mom always said I would.
Yeah? How's that?
Doing something stupid.
Carson could hear the Wahpettons dismount from their horses and begin scrambling up the ridge. I'm lucky that I established that this was a difficult climb during the fiction. The Wahpetton gang are going to have to dismount from their horses and begin the climb. I'm going to give Carson an extra 1d3 rounds before he has to face them up close and personal. Okay, he's got 3 rounds to sort himself out. The 2 gangsters providing extra cover fire aren't going to be able to do anything effective. Their bullets are just going to ricochet around the rocks nearby. But if Carson puts his head up, he's got a good risk of getting shot. Our Lord who art in heaven and all that. Carson lit the fuse to the dynamite and carefully slung it, hoping it would skip down the hill towards his attacker. Given the rough, rocky terrain, I'm going to make this a regular wits test. I've got a meet or beat a 7, no modifiers. A 9. The lit stick of TNT bounced off of a couple of rocks and went rolling. To Carson's satisfaction, he heard a couple of shouts of dismay, and then the thud of dynamite and a rain of debris. Dynamite is a rating 5 explosive. For lost souls caught in the blast radius, this would require a specialized wits test to get out of the way and take reduced damage. Otherwise, they'd be taking 5d3 wounds. Given that a starting player character can only take 6, that's pretty much a death sentence. For NPCs, I roll a die for each. If I get under their maximum wounds, they take wounds equal to the damage of the bomb. If I roll above their maximum wounds, they're dead. With the regular bandit, there's no point. The guy can only take 1 wound, and I'm going to rule that he was in the lead. I'm also going to rule that the bandit boss was probably in the blast radius too. With only 4 maximum wounds, he can't take a dynamite blast either. But the witch was probably hanging back a bit, so I'm going to require Carson to make a damned hard luck test to have her caught in the blast radius too. An 8. The witch was hanging back. Which means I have one last question I have to ask the dice. Which is, now that they've lost half their number, will the Wahpettons stick around, or are they going to turn tail and run? Thankfully, I've imported an OSR-style morale system into my game. I measure how dangerous bad guys are with a ferocity rating, and that also determines how high I have to roll before they run away. Normally, with bandits who have a regular level of ferocity, I have to roll better than a 7 for them to give up the fight. But given how spectacularly a few of their men just died, and the repeat use of dynamite, I'm going to give them a -1 penalty. So I have to roll better than a 6. Well, that's a 6. They're still coming. Carson turned and looked on with horror at Bo, whose shaking hands were desperately trying to stuff some cloth into the gaping wound in his gut, as he struggled in an ever-expanding pool of red. Bo has 2 wounded conditions, a punctured gut condition, and 2 bleeding out conditions. That means he's at a -5 on his roll to patch himself up. Normally I'd make this an easy roll at this point, but as he's working on himself it becomes a regular roll, meaning I have to roll 2 6s for him to stop his own bleeding at this point. If I don't, he takes another bleeding out condition at the end of the round, and dies. That's a 2 and a 1. Sorry, Bo. Bullets continued to whip past the ridge, and Carson knew if he moved, he was a target. Worse, he could hear the slow, methodical crunch of gravel and rock as whoever was left down the hill was still advancing on him. Bo mouthed the words, "Help me," as a torrent of blood ran from his mouth. Panic tangled up Carson's gut as he tried to make sense of what to do. And then he lunged over to Bo, desperately trying to save the man's life. Carson's not the kind of man to just let a fella bleed to death, but that means he's got to move fast. Given cover and elevation, I'm going to make it an easy roll for him to move over to Bo and begin attempting to save his life. Here's a wits roll. 8. So can Carson save Bo's life? Stopping the bleeding is an easy roll for him, but Carson only has 1 point of wits left. Carson scrambled onto all fours, like a jackrabbit across the top of the butte, hearing bullets whizzing past him as he went. Throwing himself against the hoodoo, he swatted Bo's hands aside and began working desperately with tatters of cloth to stanch the bleeding, listening to the distant sound of men reloading revolvers as they went. Bo was shivering in pain, but he wasn't bleeding anymore, and shivering meant he was still alive. There was no time for celebration, as a crunch of gravel drew his attention to the fact that someone had finally crested the hill. The creature that rose before him was a woman, but it was a woman from a nightmare. Her tattered dress, marked with all kinds of strange symbols, was slick with gore, her hair knotted and tangled with blood. Strange fetishes hung around her neck and from her belt. She had a holster on either hip. One held a 6-iron, the other a strange rattle. Her chartreuse-colored sash was looped through the eye sockets of a horse's skull, painted with strange veves. She gave him a shell-shocked grin, and Carson could hear the pistol on his hip beginning to whisper. The two of them looked at each other for a moment, and came to a poisonous understanding. Looks like it's time for a quick draw contest, and this ain't gonna be easy. A lost soul involved in a quick draw adds their wits and their vigor to get a quick draw skill. NPCs use twice their maximum wounds. You roll a d6 for each, and add the quick draw score, then compare results. If one party beats another by 3, the one with the lower number dies instantly, no matter how many wounds they had left. If a player character's roll is only 1 or 2 higher, they get to make an attack, and a luck roll to avoid getting hit. If it's 1 or 2 lower, they have a much harder roll to avoid getting hit and take 2 dice worth of damage, and make a very weak attack roll. The problem is Carson only has 1 wits point left, and 1 vigor to start with. That means his quick draw skill is 2. The witch, with her max wounds of 2, has a 4. The odds are not good for Carson. I'll roll for him first. That's a 2. Carson has only got a 4. No matter what he's doing, things are about to get bad for him. Now rolling for the witch. Carson was never quick. He wasn't a gunfighter at all. He has no idea where he got that cursed gun. It had just been sitting on his hip when he arrived. But now he could feel it laughing, feel it hissing in his ear. And he could be neither sure that it wanted him to win, or that he wanted to win with it. That second hesitation is all it took. He felt the hot bullet bore into his chest at the same time that he heard the sound of the shot. And then everything was black. Wake up. Wake up. Carson Swift, if you don't wake up now, you ain't ever gonna wake up. Carson's eyes shot open. His hands immediately scrabbled at the place where he felt the bullet enter. The wound was covered by some kind of waxy substance. He opened his eyes to the pain of light after ages in darkness. And when they could finally focus, he wished they hadn't. Where the bullet shredded into his torso, a black candle now sat, mostly melted, leaving trails of wax across his belly. His chest was ornamented with strange veves he didn't understand, painted onto his skin in what looked like blood. He could feel another stump of a candle, still hot, clinging to his forehead. Wax flaked from his face as he tried to speak. What happened? Where am I? He didn't actually need an answer as he took in his surroundings. He was in a jail cell, with the door left open, lying in the middle of a ring of cryptic markings. Outside in the hallway, an old bookshelf had been converted into an ossuary, full to the brim with painted human skulls. There were still wanted posters on the wall, once covered in sigils, tiny dolls hanging from the bottom of the yellowed paper. This was a place no one in Wonkatonkwa County ever wanted to find themselves. Y'all are in the old sheriff's office. The woman who watched him from the old guard post was beautiful and terrible. Her features were elegant, her skin pale as the moon. Her black locks piled high upon the top of her head, just disheveled enough to suggest a woman who knew both how to work and understood pleasure. Black silk rustled as she moved, and ornate beadwork sparkled on her chest as it caught the light. But there were very few men in Wonkatonkwa County who would dare ogle Letitia Quimby, witch, necromancer, and wife to the local sheriff. I died then, huh? I'm afraid so, darling. When my husband found you, you had a hole where your heart used to be, and you was surrounded by Wahpettons way out of their usual territory. What about Bo? Did he make it? Bo? As in Beauregard? Did you let some bounty hunter get you into trouble that got you killed, sugar? We didn't see no sign of him. And given who y'all angered, that's a very bad sign for him. The sheriff. If anyone can help him, the sheriff can. I'll answer any questions you got. I'm happy to help. Carson became aware of slow, heavy footfalls in the room behind Mrs. Quimby. A sound that put lead in the belly of just about anyone who dared cross the wrong side of the law in Wonkatonkwa County. Oh, don't worry. You're gonna help all right. And there's lots of questions you can answer, of course. But we're gonna need a little more from you than that. Carson Swift, y'all are deputized. The door behind her opened with a creak, and the hulking shadow of Lester Quimby appeared in it. The sheriff didn't say anything. There was a ringing sound as he flicked an object through the air as easy as most men might flip a coin, and a deputy's badge landed in Carson's lap. Bullets Against Madness is a special episode of Swords Against Madness, and it was written, played, and performed by Brian C. Rideout. Editing, mastering, and production was done by Stormhead Productions. All music and sound effects in this episode come from Pixabay and are licensed under the Pixabay licensing agreement. Undeadwood, Weird West RPG was created by Brian Rideout and is for sale on Drive-Thru RPG under his imprint Death Trap Games. If you want to hear more about Undeadwood, try my other podcast, Dead Man's Dice, which was a development log I created while building this game. Or stay tuned here for more episodes of Bullets Against Madness. I love hearing from my audience. please get in touch with me. You can reach me by email at swordsvmadness@stormheadproductions.ca or catch me on X at swordsvmadness. And in the meantime, roll high, think weird, and be ready to slap leather.